Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining our webinar today on expanding the purchasing functionality of Dynamics Business Central with ReQlogic. We have Sue Hilko today presenting, so a huge thank you to her. A few things to go over before we get started. If you have any questions, please write those out in the questions or chat windows, and we'll read those aloud at the end. And also, this is being recorded, so I will send that to you within the next few days. And with that being said, I will hand things over to you, Sue.
Okay, thanks, Allie. So today we're going to talk about expanding the purchasing functionality of Dynamics Business Central. And I'm going to introduce REX, which is DXCPS, which is short for DXC Procurement Solutions. And some of us, you may know us also as ReQlogic, which was our name for about 18 years. So this is our new offering in the cloud. And of course, I'm presenting for the TM group. So our agenda for today's presentation goes over that we will review some questions for you to assess your business processes as they relate to the differentiation between Business Central and our product, which we have codenamed REX. The goal is to determine the value that REX will bring to your procurement process. So we'll finish with some benefits of REX in general, which will be applicable to future module releases, as well as end with questions. Please feel free to type your questions in the chat area as we progress as well. So talking about REX. So we are a cloud-hosted procurement solution on a well-known procurement solution formerly known as ReQlogic. So we've completely rewritten our product for this cloud version, taking advantage of the benefits of being in the cloud and utilizing all the latest development tools. We will speak to some of these benefits on future slides. So at its core, REX offers much of the same functionality, if any of you are familiar with DXCPS/ReQlogic, but it also builds on the modern technology that the cloud has to offer. So this slide is a very simple overview of the procurement process. So a procurement process, or REX, starts with a requisition, and so then every requisition, every purchase request will begin with that requisition step. The requisition will go through an automated approval process that, of course, is particular to your company, and upon the final approval, either a purchase order will be created or it will be sent to your purchasing department in what we call the buyer queue, or a purchasing agent, if that's your model, for them to create the PO, decide whom to purchase it from, and maybe consolidate some requisitions onto one PO to save some shipping costs. The next step is receiving, when the items arrive. You may also utilize the receiving process if you make requisitions or purchase orders for services, because many companies want to know that those services have in fact been delivered before they pay the invoice, which of course is the final step in the process. So the last step is invoicing, and we provide the ability to do 2- or 3-way matching. So you can either match to the purchase order or match to the receipt. And we've built our system with a great deal of flexibility, so you can configure to meet your specific needs. And then we also provide AP automation for non-related purchase orders. So you can do invoicing in our system where you don't have an invoice that's applicable to a purchase order, such as your utilities or your taxes or those things. A little bit of overview of our product is we have been in the market since 2001, integrated exclusively to Microsoft ERP systems. So we've been around for some time, but of course the cloud offering is brand new. So we have decided to release our product in a modular form throughout this year. So we decided to do it this way because it would bring our product to market quicker fashion. So this slide depicts our release schedule. And as you can see, May has passed, so it's already released. And then at the end of this month, we will have the middle section, and then in October will be the next release that we're planning. So our investigation into Business Central for gap analysis has determined that the brunt of benefits and functionality of our product are around the requisition PO process. You may continue to use Business Central functionality for receiving and invoicing until we have released those modules. Of course, there are general benefits throughout our product with less complicated screens, easy configuration capabilities, and expanded workflow. These benefits will be available throughout all functionality of REX. So how do you determine if Business Central will meet your purchasing requirements? In this next section, I've tried to provide some questions for you to ask if Business Central will meet your purchasing requirements, or do you need to add additional functionality? So over the years, during our demos, we have determined that these are some key pain points when we're doing our needs analysis or discovery calls with our prospects. And you can see the bottom bullet, 39% are currently on a manual process. So if your company is not using requisitions today, you may easily cover the cost of implementing REX in your first month of implementation. It's based on savings you will recognize by controlling spending through conforming purchases to designated vendors with pre-negotiated prices from your suppliers, eliminating purchases made without approvals, and reducing your over budget spending. And those are some of the things that have been brought to our attention by companies that have purchased our software. And on a future slide, we'll go over some of those comments. The accounts payable office will often return from a day out of the office to over 100 emails. Companies without automated workflow for their approval process are often passing emails back and forth to gain approvals. And if any of you are on a manual system today or a system without automated workflow for approvals, I'm sure you can identify with that. This inefficient process not only wastes time with excessive emails, but also time spent on research analysis to determine the correct people are approving documents. And then 28% listed visibility into reports and screens. So this would be gaining information for analysis, anything of that nature. Of course, it's more difficult if you're on spreadsheets or you have paper files in your file cabinets. And then 15% were not currently using requisitions at all. So usually you have wild spending where people are just purchasing things that they feel they need without approval. I actually did a demo for a hospital in the Michigan area where the gentleman told me that someone had actually bought a pen for $750. So you obviously can't have that kind of lack of control on your spending. So automating the system will pull that back in line and make sure that before anyone purchases anything, it is approved for purchase. So what are some of those questions to ask? Who is a good fit for our product? As I mentioned in the previous slide, the majority of companies that come to us are still manually processing purchase requests. If you're looking for to automate your purchasing, then maybe you're also on an ineffective system today. So this manual process is true even at companies that have a purchasing department. Regarding the invoicing side, there are more companies which have automated their electronic receipt of invoices. So they're receiving them in via email, but they still have a manual process for matching those invoices to their purchase request, finding the actual PO that it relates to. And many cases, the invoices come in and there has been no purchase order created. So that draws back to purchasing without receiving approval before they do it. This is an area where companies are losing money, not only through wasted time, but by employing additional staff to chase all these down. So the key objective here is for you to determine if Business Central will meet your needs, or does your company require additional functionality to match your business processes. So first, you need to determine your purchasing process. Manual systems normally have several areas to address ROI. As I mentioned, companies are purchasing without approval, and there's no consistency in purchasing. So you may be purchasing from several different vendors instead of consolidating your purchasing with one vendor and negotiating better pricing with that particular vendor. Approvals are time consuming. They're often skipped steps because you're emailing back and forth multiple times. But determine how are you today managing that approval process. And of course, the last bullet, who initiates the purchasing? So purchasing requests are generated differently depending on your business processes and the structure of your business. Do you have several locations making purchasing requests? Do you have a purchasing department? Are purchase requests delegated to a particular individual, or can anyone make a purchase request? So what is the differentiation between Rex and Business Central? So the foremost difference is between where it involves where in the purchasing process is that vendor determined, and whom determines the vendor when you purchase. So I've had some scenarios where it's a combination, actually. In a medical facility where the scientists want to purchase their beakers and their tubes and their slides and everything themselves. They have their preferred vendor. So they want to not only request the purchase, they want to determine whom they're going to buy it from and take it all the way through. In other companies, someone else is determining who is going to be the vendor that they're going to purchase from. So think about your process and where in the process is the vendor determined and whom is deciding who that vendor is going to be. Do you create requests by needs with several different vendors on a request, or do you currently create one request per vendor? If you are manual today, that second bullet is probably the case. You're probably doing one request per vendor. Do you have a purchasing department or a purchasing agent within your company? Where is that actual purchase order created? And while you're at it, also think about your workflow. Who needs to approve this? Is it a department manager? If it's a CapEx, does it need to be approved differently? If it's over a certain dollar amount, does it need to be approved different yet? And things like that. So the largest difference, as I mentioned, between our product and Business Central is in the requisition process. We have what is a requisition versus what Business Central has is a purchase order quote. And in the next couple of slides, I will show you that difference by depicting the screens. So one of the greatest strengths of Rex is the ability for our product to adapt to your business processes. So we can actually handle both, but we'll take a look at out of the box. So this is the requisition entry screen in Rex. And if any of you have previously seen ReQlogic, this should look familiar to you. So the fields that are highlighted in blue are your required fields. However, you'll note that there are only 3 required fields which someone must enter. The other 3 fields will default in based upon your routing policy, who is making the request, and the date. So the requisition will always start with a description. So a description on the top of the screen in what we call the header portion, and then a description in the bottom of the screen on your actual line item. So this is your header portion. This is your line items. This is what you're buying for on the top of the screen, and this is what you're actually purchasing. So the items that you're purchasing. So, and there is a 1-to-many ratio. So I can enter a line item to purchase from, say, Staples. And on that same requisition, I can purchase a line item to purchase from a CDW. If I'm purchasing stationery supplies from Staples, but I'm purchasing my computers from the CDW, then they can both be on the same requisition. And so when I say it's a 1-to-many ratio, for each vendor that's entered on a requisition, a different purchase order will be created. Obviously, you can't have a purchase order for multiple vendors, so that is how the system works. The next screen just depicts the fact that you can enter different vendors. So in this highlighted area in red here, you can see there's one vendor we're purchasing the business cards from, and another vendor we're purchasing our trade show expense from. This screen is the PO quote entry screen in Business Central. So this screen depicts that quote, or you can also go and just create a PO without going through the PO quote screen in Business Central. But however, the largest differentiator is it starts with a vendor. So in the top here, or their header portion, the vendor is determined. And that must be the first step in the process, which is why you see the little star there. And then once you select your vendor, you will then get a list of items to purchase from specific to that vendor. So rather than searching your entire list of items to purchase, you will only see items that are specific to this vendor. And then of course, so you need to choose your item and you need to put in the quantity. Very similar to our system. Biggest differentiator is it's a 1-to-1 ratio. So you're only creating a PO quote by vendor. So you cannot have multiple vendors on one PO quote. It's a 1-to-1 ratio. So I'm determining the vendor, and I'm then creating the purchase order for that specific vendor. So this may be a preferred method in a company that mainly processes requests or purchase orders only to 1 or 2 primary vendors. And so then maybe to have several items for a specific vendor on a purchase quote is acceptable. It's also used a lot by distribution and manufacturing companies that have a suggested list of items to purchase. And then that would be by vendor. And then Business Central does have this capability. It will burst out and create purchase orders, all suggested purchase orders based upon orders and your manufacturing distribution requests. So although Rex can also accommodate this, this scenario, this is the way that Business Central does it, and they cannot accommodate the 1-to-many ratio of Rex. So highlighting some additional differences between Rex and Business Central. As I mentioned, we've already talked about starting with a requisition versus starting with a PO or PO quote, so I'm not going to reiterate that again, and the description as well as starting with a vendor. So, and multiple vendors on one quote versus one vendor. We also have budgets within Rex. Now, at the present time, we can only view budgets from within Rex. And but we do have our own budget tables. So additionally, Rex budgeting does provide the ability to set a budget against almost any field. You may have a budget for a vendor, a user-defined field, an item, not just general ledger budgets. You can drill around in Business Central to provide a view to budgets during the approval process, but the big differentiating factor is that Rex will give you a warning if you have a budget in the system and you are over budget on the line. So you can make that decision right on that line without going somewhere else to determine. In fact, you can set it to restrict you from purchasing if you're over budget. Next item is punch out. Punch out's the capability to go out to a vendor's catalog or online site and purchase items. Now, the nice part about that is you usually negotiate prices with this specific vendor and you modify that site. So if it is Staples, you're not going to the entire Staples site to allow someone to purchase a $750 pen. You're going to a specific area of that website to purchase just certain types of pens or certain types of printers or whatever the case may be. You're filling a shopping cart, you're pulling it back into a requisition. So the nice part about that is that that purchase is getting approved before you're actually ordering those. So it removes a scene or a scenario in some companies where people are going to websites, purchasing on their credit card, and without any kind of approval, buying all these items. It's sort of like the barn door is closed after the horse is out of the barn, so they say. In this case, you're going out to the website, you're filling a shopping cart, but rather than giving a credit card and purchasing, as we do today on most websites, you're pulling that shopping cart back into our product for approval before you're actually making the purchase from that vendor. Then once it's approved, an electronic or purchase order may be sent to that vendor to fulfill that order, and then it will go through a typical scenario of being invoiced. So that capability is not available in Business Central. So if that is an integral part of your business or something you require, then Rex may be a better fit. There's also a buyer review queue in Rex. So what that is the last step before that purchase order is generated. And you can do things in the buyer review queue like fulfill from inventory. You can group different requisitions together by vendor into one purchase order for that vendor. So you could take advantage of discount pricing for large quantities. You can also probably save on shipping costs if you combine requisitions from different people within your organization into one purchase order and take advantage of reduced shipping costs if they're all going to the same location. In Business Central, the last approver may fulfill from inventory if they desire, but there is no buyer queue or purchasing area. You have in Rex complete visibility. So we have a tab we call the status tab, and that tab provides you the ability to see the complete audit trail of every transaction. So we're date, time, and user stamping. So if I open this tab, I see exactly what step in the process it is, whether that's where it is in the approval process, has the PO been generated, what is the PO number, has it been received, what's the receipt number, and has it been invoiced, and has it been paid. So from its inception right through payment, I see that information in Rex, and in BC, I see the last step that has occurred. So I have visibility into what was the last thing that happened rather than the complete audit trail. Separate requisition, receiving, and invoicing screens on Business Central. In Rex. In Business Central, those are all on one screen. In fact, there's various different ways to get to create a PO or a PO quote, a receipt, an invoice. You can do it all on one screen. You can limit functionality. You can also enter from several different areas in the product. So it's very versatile that way. So those are some of the main differences between the products. So your general question is, will Business Central meet your purchasing requirements? So do I want to add additional functionality to Business Central that will better meet my business requirements? So what percentage of your purchasing is done from websites? These questions I put together for you to ask yourself to determine yes or no. How do I do this? What's the most important things to my company? Because we always want to justify the return on investment. So the savings recognized, for example, through utilizing punch out alone could justify the cost of Rex, to adding Rex to your Business Central implementation. Vendors will provide pre-configured lists of items you purchase with them at your negotiated pricing. So you know you're always getting the best price. Workflow in Rex is extremely flexible and easy to maintain. It also contains things such as out of office. So if I know I'm going to be traveling or I'm going on PTO and I'm not going to be available to approve documents, I can delegate my approvals while I'm out of the office. It has the benefits of 20 years of experience developing around workflow that brings in that additional flexibility into the workflow process. Budgets. More and more companies that we demo to are looking to have visibilities into budgets before creating that purchase order. So they want the ability to be warned when they're over budget, or to stop the purchase when it's over budget, or to route it differently when it's over budget. So that's a key issue that keeps coming up over and over again. So if you're currently using ReQlogic today, chances are you will need to change your business process if you're adopting to Business Central. The next slide shows you some existing customer comments that I alluded to earlier in the presentation. So these are around some of the key functionality, right? Electronic invoice processing. So this is the functionality where invoices come in via email, and the entry screen is automatically created with the invoice attached. So those are some of the benefits that our customers have experienced by utilizing or implementing this process. Now, this process can be implemented in both Business Central and Rex. Electronic routing. One of our customers said improve workflow by days. Documentation easily accessed for audit trails. So this electronic routing, especially if you're manual based today, cuts days off of approval processes, and it's because you're not passing emails back and forth, and documents are automatically attached. You don't have to go searching for them in the approval process. You're eliminating all your paper. Everything is filed electronically, which ultimately gives you the ability to control spend management much, much better. So in the payables department, days are constantly interrupted with inquiries for information. So providing the ability for users to access that information themselves not only provides the ability to attain the information when they want it, rather than waiting for a response, but it also reduces the number of interruptions placed on the accounting staff. Audit trails, I talked about them. This is an area they really like. They like the ability to be able to see exactly where it is, and they felt it helps with cash flow and, of course, saves time. The ability to create accrual estimates. So the nice thing is when you have everything in your system electronically, such as invoices or requisitions that are in the process of creating a purchase order, you can run reports to give you accruals. So not only do I know the invoices that have already been approved and entered into the ERP system, but I have ability to run a report and do an accrual entry to say, this is the liability that I'm going to accrue once these invoices go through the approval process. Because the purchase order itself does not affect your general ledger. It's the receiving and the invoicing that creates the actual effect on the general ledger. And then research and self-service. So you don't need to buy users necessarily for Business Central. You can have them just for Rex, and this will give them the ability to do research and run reports and get information that they need, enter items, be an approver without having access to the ERP system. Most companies don't want to give everyone access to the ERP system, not simply for cost, but also because they don't want them in the accounting system. So what are the benefits of Rex? Most of this we've already discussed. Basically, it saves time by providing simple entry screens and easily modifies to address staff capabilities. You can easily locate favorite items for purchase There's an indicator. You can mark an item in your search window as one of your favorites and then only see your favorites. So I'm limiting the visibility into the giant list of items to select from. Email or electronic purchase orders to vendors, creates efficiency and eliminates paper. And then you can easily template an order. So say you do a monthly supply order, or you purchase the same things or request the same things when you hire a new person. They need a phone, they need a laptop, they need need business cards, whatever that may be. They may need a monitor. You can create an order and save it, and then just pull that template up and fill in the quantities and the dates required. So saving a lot of time. Now, Business Central does have the ability to template, but it is by vendor. And that's because of that differentiating fact where Rex has the ability to create templates in any number of ways and search to find those templates in any number of ways, including item, vendor, the name of the requisition that you named it, the date range, whether it's in the approval process or has already been approved. Now, Business Central provides their templating ability by vendor only. So once again, because of the way the product is structured, you would need to know the vendor before you can pull up the previous request and then copy it and just fill in the items required. So one of the big strengths of Rex is user experience. And I've listed some of the things here, some system-wide benefits, such as our user-defined fields. They're available for capturing additional information. And those fields can tie to the dimension fields within Business Central. So when you enter information in our system, you can integrate it into Business Central easily. And these so they may be tied to those dimension fields. You can adapt your screen size. So your screen size will adapt based upon whether you're on your desktop, a laptop, a mobile device, etc. Simplify data entry screens. So you can slim down an entry screen and eliminate fields that are not pertinent to either the user that's using the system or your business process. So for instance, I can take a entry screen of, say, a requisition and just pull up those required fields. So the requester doesn't decide who the vendor is. They don't really care who the they're not responsible for determining who the GL code is or any of those particular areas. So all I need from them are those 3 required fields. What do you want? And what is this for? And how many do you want? As well as that, complete audit trail is another user experience that most of our companies find very, very beneficial. And then this screen just depicts our workflow. Our workflow or routing capability is some of the strongest in the industry, and it talks about a number of different things you can do with workflow. Now, if you're manual today or you have a very simplified routing process, we can obviously handle that. But if you have a more sophisticated routing process, then we can also handle that. So you can do any number of things listed here with these bullets, and there's also things that have been added, as I mentioned before, such as out of office. Transactions can escalate to the next approver after a certain period of time. the whole result here is to get these requisitions and invoices through the approval process in a more timely fashion, so that especially with invoicing, if I don't get my invoices through the approval process, then I may miss a discount date. I may be not taking advantage of this. So the bottom line is you're saving money when you can improve these processes. So what's new in the cloud, if there's anyone that is currently using ReQlogic? Data sharing. So what does that mean? That means that if you have more than one company set up, which most of our companies we're talking to today do, and you change something in one company, the data is shared. So you can have it update the remainder of the company. So say you share a common chart of accounts, you can update in one company and have it update across all the companies. Or vendors, you add a new vendor, you want the ability for other companies in your organization to purchase from that vendor, that will be shared across the companies. Integration mapping. So we have APIs for Business Central to assign interval times when to go and update it, each connection. So what does this mean to you? Well, that is the integration point between our product, Rex, and Business Central. So the tables need to be synced in order to know when you've added a new vendor, know when you've added a new new account into your chart of accounts. So you will select how often you want to integrate information entered into our system or Business Central, and what time frame you want to enter. So for example, you may need your chart of accounts to update only every 24 hours or maybe once a week, depending on how often. Most times companies don't add new accounts into their chart of accounts on a very frequent basis. However, you may want your POs to update every minute, and maybe your vendor table to update every 5 minutes. So we give you the flexibility of not saying sync this system tonight at 9 p.m. to decide actually when are you syncing which functionality within the product. Data field customization. So this is another strong area for reps. We've provided tooltips. So you can enter a description for up to 1,000 characters to display when you hover over a field. So this is valuable if you want to say you've added a user-defined field and you want to provide your organization, what do you add in this field? So you can add a description that will appear when they hover over. Or each company uses a product differently, and you may want to hover over and explain to someone what they should be entering in a particular field. The rest of these talk about display, so the number of columns, how it can be adjusted to appear on a desktop or a tablet differently than it appears on a mobile device. So the screenshot size will auto adjust, as I mentioned previously, but it also talks about alignment, and then of course decimals. So you can, some companies, especially I found in my experience, chemical companies may have 4 decimal places when they're purchasing items. They may go out to 4 decimal places rather than 2. And then context sensitive help is a welcome new feature in our product. And this is a picture of a help screen for the requisition entry screen. And what that does is enables customers to modify and add topics to the help center. So you can tailor the help to your specific processes as well. So we added the capability to customize the help screens for each implementation. So you can add requirements specific to your organization to help new employees learning the system, or provide further detail on requirements specific to your company. So now you can take our standard help and add that additional functionality. So if a customer field has been added, you can add instructions for that field to your help area as well. So what are the next steps for you? And what do you need to do? So contact the TM group to schedule a discovery call or a demo, and you can reach out to Allie to do that, and that's Allie's email address. You can receive a recorded demo of Rex, which Allie can provide to you. We would be happy to do a discovery call with you, and Allie can arrange that. We would gather information to customize a demo for you. You provide us sample documents. The more information we gather from you, the more we can customize your demo, the more value you will find. Because if you are a, let's say, a company that's doing biotech, and I demo for you purchasing flour, say, or baking supplies, it's not going to be relevant to your business processes or how you run your business. So the more relevant we can make it to your business, the more benefit you will gather, because you want to take this product, this off-the-shelf product that's designed for multiple different types of companies, and modify it to meet your business processes. So you want to be sure that it can adapt and meet all of your requirements. Now, this becomes even more stronger if you're currently using another product, and that product has been either customized or tweaked to meet some of your specific requirements. You have certain business processes that are unique to your type of business, or things like that. So we will then demo and customize that demo as much as possible. Of course, there's no cost or obligation as we go through these steps. And also, lastly here, I will, if anyone is interested in being a beta customer, we are at the present time accepting beta customers, and you can reach out to Allie again and inquire if you would like to be a beta customer. And that's my last slide. So I will see if there are any questions.
Thank you, Sue. It does not look like we have any questions today. But I just wanted to say a huge thank you to you for presenting today, and I hope everyone has a great rest of your week.
Okay, thank you, Allie.
Thank you, Sue. Bye, everybody.